Hi and welcome back. My name is Elna from elnakane.com, and for today's video, I'm going to show you Ghostwriting 101 and how to be a ghostwriter. All right, so over on my blog right here, I have a nice tutorial on how to become a ghostwriter for beginners, right? Step by step. I'm going to walk you through this process. So if you're brand new to freelance writing and you're like thinking, wow, I want to be a ghostwriter, then you can really start. You can make a little bit more money as a ghostwriter, only if you have the right clients. Now, if you go to Fiverr, if you go to Upwork, if you go to these other freelance platforms, you're not going to find high-paying ghostwriting jobs. I do say here, ghostwriting rates you see online are highly varied. So being a ghostwriter typically means you can rate that type of writing much more than your bylined content, right? You can't tell people you wrote that piece. So that's more valuable to the owner because they can claim that as their writing. And freelance platforms, they do take advantage of this and they vary their rates. I don't want you to go that route, and that's not the route that I went through. I did have a few ghostwriting clients that were sort of influencer type. And so I dealt with an editor during those times where the editor would provide feedback on the type of content they want for the client. And so it was all ghost written, right? But let's look over here about exactly what I mean by ghostwriting. I did mention that, you don't have a byline. A ghostwriter is someone that writes copy, like articles, speeches, books, blog posts, email newsletters, web copy, anything online or offline. And it isn't credited for that work. So the credit goes to the client or someone in that company or business that hired you. Now, none of the work is credited to you. This means you cannot publicly share your client writing anywhere unless your ghostwriting client gives you permission. You can definitely write that on your LinkedIn profile, on your testimonial page if they give you permission. But you're probably thinking, well, geez, Elna, how can I build my business without proof? I'm going to show you how to do that in a little bit, but let's just go over the process of Ghostwriting 101, what you need to know. Once you understand that when you do ghostwriting for a client, it's possible to rate that type of project much higher than your bylined content. Now, some writers even go as high as 100% more for their ghostwriting rates than their standard bylined content. Personally, I don't do this because a lot of my clients are already my clients, and so then they ask me to do one project as a ghostwritten piece. You can also call yourself a ghost blogger if you want, but ghostwriter is the most typical term. And you might even see that ghostwriters do even music, they do memoirs, they do books. There's a lot of potential for ghostwriting. So as I was hinting, it is one of the more lucrative types of writing jobs you can have out there. And you might be thinking, okay, so I will not have my name on it. So you might actually enjoy that you don't want to be too out there online. So ghostwriting sounds nice and you can get paid more. Another reason is that once you're done with the work and the client likes it, like that's it. You don't need to promote that client piece on social media. You don't need to upload it to your portfolio item now that you have an item piece. You don't need to, do all these other marketing things because you wrote that piece. It's done. You can forget about it and move on. And one aspect could be that there's less research overall. Typically with ghostwriting pieces, the person has to give you as much information as possible so that you are writing under them, that you emulate their voice, their tone, their message. And so that means that the client has to give you a lot of information about them. And that might make it an easier gig for you. All right, so the steps that I recommend for Ghostwriting 101, if you want to be a ghostwriter, is try to be a freelance writer first. You're going to find a much easier path that way if you do some freelance writing work with some bylined content under your belt. So my high-paying clients hired me to ghostwrite or had colleagues that needed a ghostwriter. So being a freelance writer will build that credibility easier for you. You will already have a name. You already have that status that you do write content. So it's much easier to add ghostwriting on your services page than to start out as a ghostwriter. That also means you don't have to market yourself so much as a ghostwriter because potential clients will already see what you've done. They've seen your clips already. And so what I'm hinting at too is make sure that you do have a writer website. I do have a resource here called Writer Website in a Weekend that you can check out. The second step is to also do some freelance editing. So you can skip the freelance writer part and just be a freelance editor first. That might ease you in. So sometimes a client may add your name as one of the authors, as in with notation as the editor. So here's something on Amazon where you can see the editor was added here. Since you're already editing the client's projects, it's not a huge leap to let them know that you are more than happy to help them ghostwrite a book for them if they want to produce more books in the future. You're hired on as an editor to edit this book. Then you can let them know, hey, by the way, I also do ghostwriting, and that will maybe give them some ideas like, hey, maybe I do need a ghostwriter for my next project, right? So that's an easier way, again, to do some ghostwriting. And then the next step is to be comfortable with bigger writing projects. Yes, you can ghostwrite a blog post, you can ghostwrite a sales page and other things like that. That's fine and dandy. But to really make the money as a ghostwriter, you're going to want to try to get these bigger projects like books. So here is what Kelly James Inger says. She's a profitable ghostwriter, and she says, in the last couple of years, my ghostwriting projects have paid $20,000 for a 60,000 word health book, $15,000 for a 40,000 word business book, $12,000 for a 55,000 word memoir, and the book had been written but needed reworking, $25,000 for an 80,000 word nutrition fitness book, of which my client wrote about 1/3 of the manuscript and I wrote the rest. It says these numbers may not be huge, but remember that I'm being paid to write the book, not promote it. And once it's completed, typically this takes 4 to 6 months and then they're done. I can ghostwrite 2 or 3 books a year in addition to writing my own books and articles, which makes me for a comfortable income. So, looking at this, it's around $3,000 a month just with the ghostwriting. So if you mix this with your regular freelance writing clients, you can make a killing. You can make $5,000-$10,000 a month just with the ghostwriting clients that you have and then your client pieces. But writing books is a separate skill than writing a blog post or article. So I've only taken one book project, but that was only like 10,000 words. And so for me, that's just like a really long blog post. So I personally have a harder time writing more than that. But if you're comfortable, if one of your aspirations is to be an author, then maybe consider ghostwriting, because that could also be a shoe into getting your books out there too. And again, the next step here is to write a book or two. So as I was saying, most ghostwriters want to be authors. Many of my course students in Write Your Way to Your First 1K are also authors. I do have a blog post on that, but this just gives you practice on how to write a book and gives you confidence that you can do that for someone else. The next step is to learn how to write for someone else. This could be one of the biggest skills to learn and may be hard for you. Crafting your own voice as a freelance writer is something that you are trying to do online. And now you have to craft the voice of your ghostwriting client, right? You have to sort of be like this chameleon of adapting your writing tone and message and style to fit your ghostwriting clients. A strong skill is just to have that adaptability with your writing style and be sort of more fluid with your writing. For example, my writing voice is very conversational for my blogs and a little less for my client pieces. Now, if I decided to hire a ghostwriter for one of my blogs, I usually give them links to the type of writing that I want. So some people or businesses will give you a writer guideline that gives you more information about the client's voice. As a ghostwriter, it's up to you to familiarize yourself to the project in person. So, read their content, listen to a podcast if they did, or YouTube video or an interview, something like that. Follow them on social media, read their books, and join their email list to get just more ideas of who this person is. If you're ghostwriting for like a specific person, you may ghostwrite for a brand and the brand just wants a white paper. They want some kind of like informational book. That's a little bit different. And from there, you want to give the client maybe a small sample of your ghostwriting to see if it fits their voice. So they can take a look and say like, oh, wow, you really nailed it, or this just doesn't sound like me, kind of thing. And it's a big undertaking. So just be aware of that. All right, so now you're thinking, well, how do I show that I'm a ghostwriter? How will clients know that I can write effectively? What do I need to do? All right, so one of the first things you can do to start marketing yourself as a ghostwriter is to actually produce content about ghostwriting and use that as a guest post, right? So for example, Karen Cole wrote a guest post for freelancewriting.com on what is ghostwriting. And so this is her bio under that guest piece, which says copy editor and ghostwriter and book author right here. So she's already promoting that she's a ghostwriter about the content that she wrote for the guest piece about ghostwriting. I give you some examples of topics that you could pitch to guest pieces. So how to hire a ghostwriter, how a ghostwriter can create their writing voice, how do you ghostwrite a book, 5 mistakes new ghostwriters make, and the list can go on and on. So think about that. Think about your service and write content or guest pieces on guest blogs, on Medium, on your own blog about ghostwriting, just to let people know, look, I do ghostwriting. ghostwriting, and here's all the content that I wrote about hiring a ghostwriter and mistakes ghostwriting makes and how to perfect the ghostwriting process or whatever it is. So the point is just to, instead of relying on your client pieces to market yourself, you really have to rely on your writing about ghostwriting. You can also provide help on Facebook. I know in other groups, you can mention that you're a ghostwriter and that can help other people. You can also say on your writer website or on social media that you're a ghostwriter for hire. I do suggest this in Write Your Way to First 1K when you're a new freelance writer to say you're a freelance writer for hire. It's an easier way to let people know that you are for hire. So I have here from your Pinterest bio to your Facebook page to your about section to your Twitter bio to your LinkedIn bio, whatever it is, mention that. And here's an example of Terry who did just that, ghostwriter for hire right here. Finding work as a ghostwriter. Where are these ghostwriting jobs? Is it going to be difficult for you? Hopefully not once you lay that foundation, but ideally you want to leverage your existing clients. That's why the first 2 steps of my process to Ghostwriting 101 is to either be a freelance writer or to do some freelance editing. So leveraging those existing clients, right? And you can also lean on friends, family, other writers and authors to pitch to. You can also pitch to small business owners. People like doctors, attorneys, dentists, and other small business owners may need a ghostwriter. There's even like health apps, productivity apps, organizational apps, IoT apps. The list can go on to these companies that you can pitch your ghostwriting services to them. As long as you have a writer website that leads them back to your content, that can help you seal the deal. I want you to be picky about job boards. Now, while I do promote job boards for my students as a sort of a low entry barrier way to get your first client, if you want to just do ghostwriting, it is not the best place. You're not going to find the best gigs. I do know that Contenta, which is a paid job board and an exclusive job board, they do have companies that hire writers. They don't list ghostwriting content or ghostwriting gigs, but you can lean on these companies and you can see what they pay and see if they need a ghostwriter. So I do have a review on using Contenta, so make sure you check out that video after this one. There's also a free job board, which is allfreelancewriting.com. And here they do list, it's vetted by the owner, and they do list ghostwriting content. And you can see like $1,000, there's a pro rate here. So that can also help you. So there's, a selective few sites to find ghostwriting jobs. And I list here just different types of ghostwriting jobs you might find, like fiction ghostwriting jobs, song or rapping ghostwriting jobs. You can ghostwrite ebooks, speeches, things like that. And of course, you can make a living. You've already seen the potential of making a living as a ghostwriter. All right. And then I do have a Q&A at the end of this blog post, so you can take a look at that if you want to. But there you go. That's my Ghostwriting 101 video for you. I hope you liked it, enjoy it. If you need more information, just head on over to this blog post. I'll leave a link in the description below. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to my channel for more freelance writing advice.